Hey, Nassau Bay. I'm Ashley Graves, and we are out on our wonderful Peninsula Wildlife Preserve. We're lucky today to have Katinka Dolman with us. She is a professional birder and co-owner of Beaks and Peaks in Honduras. Katinka, thank you so much for joining us out here on the peninsula.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful. We do have a few questions for you. What type of birds can we expect to see year-round out here on our peninsula?
So since you're on a peninsula, you have lots of water around, obviously. So you're going to be seeing a lot of herons, egrets, gulls, shorebirds, sandpipers, and things like that. And then as we get into migration, you'll be seeing more songbirds and things coming through too.
We are moving into fall, then winter. What can we expect to see then? And then if we're moving towards spring, what might we see in the spring?
So actually, you have two times of migration throughout the year. So you have the fall migration and you have spring migration, and you'll see partly the same birds coming through. So at this point we're in fall migration. The first birds that we start seeing in spring migration would be purple martins. They're usually the first ones coming back up for breeding, and then we get the ducks coming through. You'll get blue-winged teals, lots of blue-winged teals, green-winged teals. You'll get redheads. All those ducks come through, and then in the short songbirds, you'll get warblers like yellow warbler, Canada warbler. All of those come through too.
So if any of our citizens were interested in starting in birding, what tools would you recommend that they gather to head on out to the peninsula?
So first of all, I think you can just go out and walk, like a general interest in nature, obviously. And then if you want to start getting a little bit more into it, obviously a pair of binoculars is a good idea, because it will bring the birds so much closer that you can actually look at not only colors or silhouettes, which you can do without binoculars too, but also facial patterns, wing bars, things like that, like much more field marks in detail. And then you will need a field guide, so a book that gives you an overview of exactly those field marks that you will be looking at in the field, and they will help you identify the birds that you are seeing, so the different species. In general, if you are looking more at songbirds, they are usually more active early in the morning. So when we go out birding, we usually go to our location by the time it gets light. But if you are, for example, looking at shorebirds or herons, egrets, gulls, they'll be there all day long. Hummingbirds, for example, they'll come out a little bit later, like they seem to take a little bit longer before they warm up in the morning, so they only come out when the sun starts hitting, so that's a little bit later in the day. The same for hawks, for example. A lot of the raptors come out later in the day when it really starts heating up, because they use the thermals to get higher up in the sky and get on the currents. So it depends a little bit on the type of species you're looking for, but we, as birders, we usually like to take a rather early start.
Nice. Now, the peninsula is full of local native plants. Are there any plants that you would be able to encourage our citizens to plant in their own yards? Any particular trees that might attract certain birds for this area?
The only thing I can tell you is that it is really important that you focus on native vegetation. Even though you may think that foreign fruiting trees, for example, would attract a lot of birds, it may be that they do, but they will, for example, not attract many insects. And when they don't attract insects, they'll also not attract as many species that would feed on those insects. So yeah, it is really important that you focus on the native vegetation.
Katinka, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you being here. And tell us your website again.
It's beaksandpeaks.com.
In Honduras. And for those of you ready to do some great birding, simply park at David Braun Park, take a short walk down the path, and you're over at the peninsula, open from dawn till dusk. As always, I'm Ashley Graves, encouraging you to explore the place we all love to live, work, and play, Nassau Bay.